I found the ring, but it wasn't the one I expected, and now a man with a gun is demanding it back. The silence in the house was a heavy, suffocating thing, the kind that only settles in after a disaster has already struck, leaving behind only the smell of smoke and shattered glass. I stood in the center of our pristine, minimalist living room, the afternoon sun slicing through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air, each one a tiny, glittering accusation. My husband, David, was still upstairs, oblivious, probably scrolling through stock market tickers or planning our next pretentious dinner party. But I knew. I knew with a certainty that coiled like a venomous snake in my gut. It had started innocently enough, as these things always do. A delivery notification on our shared tablet. A package addressed only to David needing a signature. Curiosity, that fatal flaw of the modern age, had gnawed at me. I rationalized it. Maybe it was a new gadget, a surprise for me he wanted to set up first. When the box arrived, it was sleek, black, heavy stock, the kind of packaging reserved for luxury items. My fingers trembled slightly as I slid open the magnetic clasp. Inside, nestled on crushed velvet, was a small velvet-lined box. And inside that box, my breath hitched. It wasn't just any piece of jewelry. It was the ring, the solitaire, a delicate, almost heartbreakingly perfect diamond set in platinum featuring a unique, almost imperceptible engraving on the inner band, a tiny, stylized constellation mirroring Orion's belt. I recognized it instantly. My heart slammed against my ribs, hard enough to bruise. It was the very same ring I had spent the last 6 months meticulously saving for, scrimping on everything, my own wardrobe, our weekend trips, even the organic milk, to afford for our daughter, Clara's 18th birthday next month. It was her coming-of-age piece, something timeless she could pass down. I'd even taken photos of the catalog listing, mocking David when he'd suggested something cheaper, telling him, "No, David, she deserves perfection. This one." I remember the exact moment I ordered it online, feeling that profound rush of maternal love and financial terror. I had it shipped to my office P.O. box, paranoid about David seeing the statement. Yet here it was, sitting on our living room table, in his possession. My mind, desperately trying to find an exit ramp, scrambled for an explanation. Maybe he had coincidentally bought a nearly identical design? No, the constellation engraving. That was unique. That was mine. That was Clara's. Then, the second, more terrifying realization hit, sharp and blinding. This wasn't a misplaced gift for Clara. It was too small for Clara's finger, even adjusted. And it certainly wasn't addressed to her. It was a woman's ring. A delicate, undeniably expensive, and deeply intimate gift. I snatched my phone, my thumb flying across the screen, pulling up the tracking history of the package from the specialized jeweler. The delivery confirmation listed the time, the address, and then a detail that turned the blood in my veins to ice. David hadn't just received the ring. He'd signed for a confirmation text an hour ago, followed by a quick, frantic message thread that I hadn't known existed until now. I clicked the thread open, dread paralyzing my muscles. The last outgoing message David sent 30 minutes ago read, "It's perfect, darling. Just like you. Can't wait to see you tonight. I'll put it somewhere safe until then." I stared at the word darling, a word he hadn't used for me in years, let alone with such casual affection. I looked down at the shimmering stone again, the cold platinum mocking my 30-year marriage. I knew instantly who the darling was, or at least who she represented. The young, vibrant blonde from his new acquisitions team he'd been working late with constantly. My hands were shaking so violently I almost dropped the phone. I needed proof. I needed to know where he was keeping it safe. I spun around, my eyes darting around the room, searching for a hiding spot, a receipt, anything that could confirm the depth of this betrayal. And that's when I saw it, tucked half under the edge of the Persian rug near the front door. A thin, crisp piece of paper that looked suspiciously like a jeweler's receipt, printed with David's handwriting scrawled across the back. I snatched it up, unfolding the receipt, my eyes blurring over the itemized cost, focusing only on the handwritten notes scribbled hastily on the back, presumably meant for the jeweler or maybe for himself. It was a date, circled twice in black ink, and next to it a single damning initial. But it wasn't the initial that stopped my breath. It was the context. David wasn't hiding the ring from me. He was preparing to give it away tonight. And then I heard the soft click of the bedroom door upstairs, followed by the slow, deliberate sound of footsteps descending the main staircase. The descending footsteps were measured, unhurried, the confident tread of a man who believed his fortress of lies was impenetrable. Every thud of his expensive leather soles on the hardwood stairs resonated in the sudden vacuum of sound within me. My entire body locked up. I was frozen, the evidence, the ring box, the receipt, still clutched so tightly my knuckles were white islands in a sea of pale skin. I couldn't move toward the shadows of the hallway. I couldn't toss the evidence behind the sofa. My fight-or-flight response had short-circuited, leaving only a horrifying, hyper-alert paralysis. He reached the landing. I could see the silhouette now, tall and imposing, the very picture of a successful, well-put-together executive. He stopped at the bottom step, smoothing down the front of his crisp linen shirt, completely unaware of the scene of domestic devastation laid out on his living room rug. "Honey? You home already?" David called out, his voice annoyingly casual, layered with that familiar, manufactured warmth he reserved for clients and apparently his mistress. My throat was dry, constricted by the sheer volume of accusations I wanted to hurl at him. I couldn't speak. I forced a breath in, a ragged, shallow thing, and tried to shove the receipt into my pocket, but my fingers were too clumsy, too slick with nervous sweat. The velvet box slipped from my grasp and tumbled onto the polished wood floor with a soft, pathetic thud. The sound, small as it was, cracked the silence like a gunshot. David's head snapped up. His gaze swept the room, zeroing in immediately on the open, damning jewelry box sitting center stage, illuminated by the unforgiving afternoon light. His face, usually so smooth and controlled, went instantly slack, registering confusion before morphing rapidly into something guarded and dangerously calculating. "What is that doing out?" he asked, his voice suddenly flat, devoid of the previous pretense of domesticity. He took a slow step toward the coffee table, his eyes flickering nervously between the ring and me. This was it. The moment of truth. I could confront him, scream, weep, or I could play the game he'd initiated and perhaps gain an advantage. I chose the latter, leaning down slowly, deliberately, as if to pick up the box. But instead, I casually nudged it a fraction of an inch further with the toe of my slipper, forcing him to see the engraved constellation clearly. "I found this," I said, my voice emerging surprisingly steady, though several octaves lower than normal. I straightened up, holding the receipt loosely, letting the initial M face him. I was just admiring it. It's stunning, David. Truly. I didn't realize you were shopping for jewelry lately. He was cornered, but David was a master of deflection. His eyes darted everywhere but mine. He tried to salvage the situation with a clumsy lie, the kind a teenager would use. Oh, right. That's a presentation piece. For the company awards next week. I'm picking up the executive prizes. I just picked it up early because the engraver was backed up. The lie was transparent, brittle. I let a small, humorless smile touch my lips. The executive prizes? David, this isn't a plaque. It's platinum and a carat of flawless diamond. And the receipt says it was paid for 3 weeks ago, 2 days after you told me you had that urgent client dinner downtown. I held up the receipt, letting him see the date he'd scrawled. And what's this? M? Is M short for management bonus? Because I thought we agreed any purchase over $5,000 needed a discussion first. He finally closed the distance between us, moving fast now, his composure completely fractured. He reached out for the receipt, his hand brushing mine, trying to snatch the evidence. Give me that, Sarah. You're overreacting to a business transaction. It's complicated paperwork. Is it complicated, David? I stepped back, my mind racing. He was too close. If he grabbed the receipt, I'd lose the date, the initial. Because I thought I knew all your business transactions. I thought I was the only one you were buying eternity for. He stopped dead, his attempt to grab the paper abandoned as he registered the cold, dangerous edge in my voice. He wasn't just dealing with a suspicious wife. He was dealing with a woman who had already pieced together the architecture of his deceit. Sarah, please, he started, his tone shifting again, this time toward false concern, the manipulator's favorite tool. You're stressed. Let's sit down. I can explain everything. I shook my head slowly. I didn't want an explanation. I wanted him to see that I had played his hand and found the winning card. I looked down at the ring box again, focusing on the constellation engraved inside. Orion's belt. Clara's favorite constellation. My secret gift to her. No, I whispered, the realization hitting me with the force of a physical blow. You don't need to explain who M is, David. I know she's special, but what I don't understand... I paused, my voice cracking with a terrible, dawning horror, is why you would buy her the exact ring I bought for our daughter's 18th birthday, why you would steal that specific design, David, unless... My gaze snapped back to him, cold fury replacing shock. Unless you didn't buy this ring tonight? Unless this ring you're planning to give M tonight, the ring with Clara's constellation engraved on it, is the one I ordered, the one I paid for, the one that was supposed to arrive at my P.O. box next week. I looked down at the open, empty box, then back at him, realizing the logistics were impossible. Unless you didn't buy a ring. Unless you took mine. Before he could stammer a denial, before the lie could fully form on his lips, my phone, still lying on the coffee table next to the receipt, suddenly buzzed violently. It was a text notification, a preview banner flashing across the screen. It wasn't from an unknown number. It was from Clara. The message read, Mom, Dad, quick question. I just got home from school and the package from the jeweler is here. But why does the invoice say it's registered under David's name? And why is the delivery address listed as the corner jewelry shop instead of our house? And Mom, I don't remember you ordering a ring this big for me. This early? I stared at the screen, then at David, whose face had gone the color of ash. The ring he held was not the one intended for his mistress. The ring he was planning to give M tonight was the one I had secretly purchased for our daughter. which had somehow been rerouted and delivered to him instead of my office box. But if that was the case, then Clara had just received her gift, the one I had labored over, and David was about to give away the same one to another woman. Then who or what was in the box he was holding? My breath hitched as I looked back at the empty velvet cushion, then at the receipt again, the circled date for M, and the initial M suddenly making a horrifying alternate sense. David hadn't simply bought a ring. He had ordered 2 of the exact same custom-engraved model, completely unaware of the other's existence, meaning somewhere out there, 2 young women were about to receive the same heirloom, and Clara had just texted confirming hers was already in his possession. But if Clara had received hers, and David was about to give one to M, who was the final owner of the ring he was still holding, the one he had signed for and was planning to give away tonight, the one that wasn't Clara's and wasn't for M. And then, the final, horrifying possibility slammed into me as I looked at the receipt one last time. The date was for tonight. The recipient initial was M, and the invoice for the second ring, the one Clara thought she received, was dated last week. That meant the ring David was holding in his hand right now, the one he had just signed for and was about to deliver to his mistress, was the third identical ring, completely separate from both my plan for Clara and whatever transaction had happened earlier with M. David was holding an expensive, third identical ring, ready to meet a woman who wasn't M, who wasn't Clara. And as I finally gathered the presence of mind to look at the name printed faintly beneath the address on the delivery confirmation, the blood drained from my face, recognizing the initials of David's estranged younger sister, Martha, who had suddenly reappeared in town after years of silence, and who was also conveniently named M. The 3 identical rings, each bearing the almost invisible map of Orion's belt, spun through my mind like lethal, glittering shrapnel. Clara, the mistress, and now Martha, David's sister, the black sheep we hadn't spoken to in 5 years since she'd nearly bankrupted his parents. The complexity of the deception was breathtaking. David hadn't just cheated. He had built an entire multi-layered infrastructure of sentimental gifting, unknowingly overlapping his infidelity with family reconciliation, or perhaps a deeper, more calculated form of betrayal involving Martha. David saw the terror in my eyes as I read the name on the delivery slip, realizing I had moved past the affair and landed squarely in a secret only he and Martha could share. He visibly deflated, the bluster draining away, replaced by a sudden, deep weariness. He didn't try to snatch the receipt this time. He simply looked down at the ring box in his hand, the one he thought was for his mistress, and let out a slow, defeated exhale. "It's not what you think, Sarah," he murmured, his voice ragged. It's not about sex. It's about 3 identical rings, David," I hissed, fighting the urge to smash the coffee table. "One for our daughter, one for some blonde named M, and now one for your long-lost sister, Martha. What is this? A diamond chain of custody. What possible reason could you have for buying Martha a ring that looks exactly like Clara's 18th birthday present, unless you're trying to buy her forgiveness or her silence?" The word silence hit a nerve. Martha had always been trouble, a notorious gambler, always needing investments or loans that never materialized. I suddenly remembered an old family secret whispered during tense holidays. Martha had once been engaged to David's college roommate years ago, and the roommate had given her a ring with a custom engraving, a unique constellation. My mind clicked faster than I could process. The constellation wasn't Orion's belt. It was a specific, rarer star grouping visible only in the southern hemisphere, Draco. I had chosen Orion's belt specifically because Clara was obsessed with that constellation after a school trip. If David had bought Martha a ring identical to Clara's, it meant he wasn't customizing. He was replicating an old pattern, an old promise. I grabbed my phone back from the table and frantically pulled up the high-resolution photo I'd taken of the ring catalog weeks ago, the one I'd shown David when mocking his frugal suggestions. I zoomed in on the fine print below the image of the solitaire. There it was, under the heading, Heirloom Replication Services, Custom Engraving Guarantee. The jeweler offered to recreate any existing customer's custom engraving for family members ordering the same setting. "You didn't order 3 rings," I whispered, the realization chilling me to the core. "You only ordered 2, one for Clara, one for Martha." The jeweler must have used Clara's order details, the constellation you chose for her, and automatically duplicated that engraving for Martha's ring, thinking you were making a joint purchase or being sentimental about family. But if that's true, David, then where is the 3rd ring? The one you thought was for M? The one you're holding right now? David dropped the box onto the thick rug as if it had suddenly become scalding hot. He put his hands on his hips, his whole body slumping in utter defeat. "There is no M, Sarah," he admitted, his voice raw. "The M on the receipt was for me. I was picking up my own damn engagement ring." The world seemed to tilt. My carefully constructed narrative of betrayal, the mistress, the family betrayal, collapsed under the weight of this new, impossible scenario. Your engagement ring," I repeated dumbly. "David, we've been married for 30 years. Are you joking? Is this some elaborate, sick prank?" He didn't look at me. He stared past my shoulder towards the hall closet where we kept our infrequently used formal wear and old photo albums. "I'm not leaving you, Sarah. Not like that. I've been planning this for months. I was going to propose to you tonight. I was going to start over. I was buying back the marriage." My mind struggled to reconcile the smooth, lying exterior with this sudden, pathetic display of romantic desperation. "You were going to propose to me with the same ring you bought for our daughter's future, and the same ring you bought for your estranged sister?" I choked out, a hysterical laugh bubbling up. "That's not starting over, David. That's an insult wrapped in platinum. And if this ring you're holding is yours, then where is Clara's ring? And where is the ring for Martha? Where are the other 2? Just then, the front door, which I hadn't fully secured in my panic, slowly creaked open. A silhouette, not David's, appeared in the doorway, a slight figure holding a small, recognizable velvet box in one hand. It was Clara. Her eyes were wide and glistening, not with happiness, but with a terrible, dawning comprehension. She didn't look at me. She looked straight at David, then down at the ring box she was clutching, and then, with a soundless gasp, she looked at the 3rd box lying abandoned on the rug between us. "Dad?" Clara's voice was paper thin. "I just got home, and the jeweler messed up my delivery address. But Mom, look at this. I got a call from Aunt Martha. She said she got a ring, too, and she's so excited. But, Dad, why did the courier give me the box that has your initial and today's date written on it? And Mom, this one. This one isn't the constellation ring." Clara lifted the box she held, and inside, nestled on the velvet, was a massive, gaudy emerald solitaire, clearly from a completely different jeweler and looking like something pulled from a 1980s costume jewelry catalog. She looked at the expensive platinum solitaire David was clutching. and then at the empty space where the third ring should have been. "If Aunt Martha got one, and I got this one," Clara whispered, her gaze locking onto the box David had dropped, "then what is that one? The one you were going to give to... who?" Before David could even begin to spin another tale, the front door swung fully open, revealing not the courier, but a stunningly beautiful, impeccably dressed woman who looked about 5 years older than Clara. She stepped inside, radiating an aura of expensive perfume and possessiveness. She looked from Clara to David and finally to me, her eyes narrowing as they landed on the abandoned platinum ring on the rug. "David, darling, I've been waiting," the woman said, her voice husky and confident. She walked straight toward the ring on the floor, ignoring the three of us completely, bending down with practiced ease. She picked up the platinum solitaire David had dropped, the one he thought was his own engagement ring, and slipped it onto her finger, admiring how it fit perfectly. "This is divine. But you know, honey," she purred, flashing the ring at David, "I told you, I never liked emeralds." The air crystallized around the stunning intruder. She was polished, poised, and utterly without remorse, wearing David's intended proposal ring, the one he'd claimed was for me, the one with Clara's constellation, as casually as if it were costume jewelry. Her eyes, when they finally flicked toward me, held a cold, proprietary gleam. "David, darling, I've been waiting," she repeated, her voice cutting through the thick tension. She bypassed Clara, whose jaw had dropped in shock, and walked directly to the abandoned platinum ring on the rug. She slipped it onto her finger, admiring the fit as if claiming a victory trophy. "This is divine." "But you know, honey," she purred, flashing the ring at David, "I told you, I never liked emeralds." I stared at the emerald solitaire Clara was still clutching, then at the platinum solitaire glittering on the stranger's hand. The pieces finally snapped into a horrifying, undeniable mosaic. "You're not M," I stated flatly, my voice dangerously quiet, addressing the newcomer. "M was Martha. You're... who?" The woman let out a light, throaty laugh, the sound grating on my already frayed nerves. She turned her attention fully to me, a predatory smile spreading across her face. "Oh, I'm the one who introduced David to the real jeweler, darling. The one who actually knows how to handle custom orders without mixing up the constellations." She lifted her hand, allowing the diamond to catch the light. "My name is Miranda, and David and I were supposed to be celebrating our new beginning tonight. The emerald?" She gestured dismissively toward Clara's hand. "That was his contingency plan for when he realized you were too boring to divorce." Miranda. M. The initial I had misread on the receipt. David hadn't bought a ring for his mistress and then bought a third for his sister. He had been running a complex, simultaneous gifting scheme, juggling us all. The platinum ring Miranda wore was the one David had signed for today, the one he thought was for Miranda. The emerald ring Clara held was the one routed incorrectly from the jeweler. I looked at David, my husband of 3 decades, now standing exposed and pathetic between his daughter, his wife, and his mistress. He looked like a cornered animal, his face etched with 1,000 regrets he'd never actually acted upon until this very moment. "She's lying, Sarah," David stammered, his voice cracking. "Miranda, stop this. You were supposed to wait." "Wait for what, David?" Miranda challenged him, raising an eyebrow. "For you to choose which ring was better suited for which woman. You gave me the one you ordered today, the one with the perfect cut, the one that symbolizes eternal commitment. And you expect me to believe you were actually going to propose to your wife with a duplicate of your sister's ring." Clara looked from me to David, her face white. Dad, what about my ring? The one with the constellation? I thought that was mine. It is yours, sweetheart, I interjected quickly, desperately trying to shield my daughter from the toxic fallout. It was just misdirected. David was trying to fix it. The lie tasted like ash, but I needed Clara out of this crossfire. But David, reeling from Miranda's accusation about the emerald, snapped. No, Sarah, don't cover for me. It's not a duplicate. That emerald ring is junk. I bought it because I panicked when I realized Martha's ring was delayed. I told you, I was trying to fix things. I was trying to keep everyone happy. He finally looked at me, his eyes pleading. The platinum ring, Sarah, the one Miranda has, was supposed to be for you. It was meant to be my real apology. The constellation was for you, because you always talked about the stars when we first met. I ordered it months ago. I was going to give it to you tonight after I'd settled things with Martha and ended things cleanly with Miranda. I swear, Sarah, I love you. I was just trying to manage the transition. The air went out of the room again. Not only had he been cheating, planning to leave, and buying 3 identical rings for 3 different women, but the platinum ring, the one I had seen, the one I had coveted for Clara, the one I thought was the epitome of his betrayal, was mine. It was the one he actually intended to reconcile with. Miranda, meanwhile, was looking utterly furious, clutching the platinum ring. You were going to give her the custom heirloom, David, after everything? And leave me with the emerald. She snatched the heavy emerald ring from Clara's stunned hand. You think I'm the consolation prize? Suddenly, Miranda wasn't looking at David anymore. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, fixed on me. She didn't move toward David. She moved toward the door, preparing to bolt, perhaps to use the actual heirloom ring as leverage. As Miranda spun toward the exit, Clara let out a strangled cry, pointing not at Miranda, but past her, at the sliver of space left open by the ajar front door. "Mom! Dad, look!" Clara shrieked, her voice filled with pure terror. Standing just outside the threshold, obscured until now by Miranda's body, was a 4th figure, a tall, dark silhouette holding a heavy, unmarked briefcase, completely motionless, watching the diamond ring on Miranda's finger. And as the light from the living room caught the glint of metal in his hand, I recognized the distinct, unnerving shape of a heavy-duty flashlight aimed directly at Miranda's face. "Nobody moves!" A deep, gravelly voice commanded from the doorway, echoing with a chilling lack of emotion. "That diamond is evidence, and I'm here to collect it." The gravelly voice dropped the temperature in the room by 20 degrees. The man at the door, a figure built like a concrete pillar, remained utterly still, the powerful beam of his flashlight blinding Miranda, where she stood frozen near the threshold. The sudden shift from domestic melodrama to potential armed confrontation was dizzying. Miranda, the supposed mistress, instinctively recoiled, shielding her eyes with the hand wearing the platinum solitaire. Her confidence evaporated instantly, replaced by a raw, animalistic fear that mirrored Clara's. "Who the hell are you?" David sputtered, finally finding his voice, taking a clumsy step forward, positioning himself slightly in front of Clara. The man didn't answer David. His flashlight beam remained fixed on Miranda. "The ring, ma'am. You know the protocol for stolen property from the Atherton estate auction. I was told it was being moved tonight. You're in possession of an item that was reported missing 3 days ago." Stolen property? Atherton estate? The entire foundation of our sordid evening crumbled. This wasn't about David's pathetic romantic juggling act anymore. This was something darker, something involving organized theft. and Miranda had apparently been on the receiving end, or the perpetrating end, of a crime ring. "Miranda, what is he talking about?" I demanded, stepping closer to David, instinctively forming a fragile barrier around Clara. Miranda tried to pull the ring off, but the metal seemed to cling to her finger. I bought it from a broker. He said it was estate liquidation." Her voice was shaking now, the veneer of the confident socialite dissolving into sheer panic. The man took a single, deliberate step into the room, his briefcase looking far too heavy for mere paperwork. "The constellation engraving is unique to the Atherton collection, ma'am. It matches 3 other pieces confirmed missing. You're holding one of them. Hand it over, or we'll have to take you in for questioning." My mind flashed back to the receipt. M for Martha. Martha, the gambling debtor, always looking for quick cash. Had Martha stolen the ring, intending to sell it, and sold it to Miranda, David's supposed mistress? And if so, where was Martha now? And what about the emerald ring Clara was holding? I looked down at the emerald in Clara's hand, the gaudy, obviously different ring. I glanced at the receipt again, specifically at the date David had scrawled next to the M initial. Tonight. Tonight was when David planned to give me the platinum ring, which he claimed was his apology. Tonight was when Miranda showed up expecting the platinum ring. Tonight was when Martha was supposed to get her ring, the emerald perhaps as the junk backup. The whole scenario was a perfect storm of misplaced packages and overlapping identities. "Wait!" I shouted, stepping forward, forcing the flashlight beam to shift slightly toward me. "That ring Miranda has, the platinum one, that was meant for me. It was my apology gift from David." The man paused, momentarily thrown off balance by the sheer volume of claimants. "And who are you, madam?" "I'm his wife, and I'm his new fiancée," Miranda spat, trying to twist her hand free of the ring. "And I'm his daughter," Clara cried out, still clutching the emerald. The enforcer surveyed the chaotic scene, a broken husband, a panicked mistress, a terrified daughter, and a very confused wife, all circling 3 rings that represented 3 different relationships, and now, apparently, a felony. "Sir," the man addressed David, ignoring the rest of us, "you signed for 2 packages today from the courier service, the Platinum Solitaire, and an envelope containing the appraisal documents for the emerald. Which one are you claiming ownership of?" David threw his hands up in surrender, the fight gone. "I don't know. I thought the platinum was mine for Sarah, and the emerald was for Martha, because her delivery was delayed." It was the truth, or at least the closest thing to it this night would allow. The enforcer seemed to process this information rapidly. He turned his head slightly, directing his voice toward the open doorway, clearly communicating with someone outside. "Stand down, Subject 1, he commanded into a hidden mic. Then, turning back to Miranda, his voice hardening. "The platinum piece matches the serial number of the Atherton diamond recovered from the scene. It's coming with me as evidence. You will be contacted by the police." Miranda let out a wail of despair as the man swiftly produced a slim, metallic tool from his case. He didn't try to pull the ring off. Instead, he expertly used the tool to apply pressure near the setting, and with a faint click, the platinum band sprang open just enough for him to slide it cleanly off Miranda's finger. He deposited it into a lead-lined evidence pouch inside his briefcase without another word. He then glanced at the emerald ring Clara held. "That one is not registered in the Atherton files. We are only interested in the platinum pieces. You can keep the costume jewelry." Miranda, stripped of her ill-gotten prize, bolted past the enforcer and out the door, disappearing down the street as quickly as she had arrived. The enforcer turned to David, his expression grim. Mr. Hayes, you're going to need to explain to the authorities exactly how you came into possession of 2 other rings matching the descriptions we have on file, one of which was delivered to a known associate of your sister. We'll be in touch." He snapped the briefcase shut, the sharp sound echoing in the suddenly silent room. Then he too was gone, leaving the front door wide open to the cooling evening air. Silence descended again, heavier now, weighted with police inquiries and shattered trust. David looked ravaged, defeated. Clara was still clutching the emerald ring, tears silently streaming down her face, not from sadness but from the sheer trauma of the last hour. I looked at David, the man who had tried to buy his way out of his mess with 3 identical rings. I looked at the emerald in Clara's hand, the only thing left that wasn't tainted by theft or infidelity, a cheap, ugly consolation prize. "Clara," I said softly, pulling her close, trying to soothe the shaking in her small frame. "It's over now. We'll figure it out." David took a hesitant step toward us, perhaps looking for forgiveness, perhaps for a path to explain the inexplicable. "Sarah, please, let me just explain about Martha." I didn't look at him. I looked past him, toward the now empty doorway where the imposing figure had stood, and that's when I saw it. A small square piece of paper fluttered down from the frame where the enforcer had leaned against the door jamb. It wasn't the receipt. It was a business card, crisp and thick, slipped there inadvertently. I picked it up. The card was stark black with silver lettering. It wasn't for a jeweler or a security firm. It read, "The Resolution Agency, Discreet Family Realignments." Underneath, in smaller print, was a personal endorsement scrawled in elegant handwriting. "Always be wary of the 3rd ring, David. You didn't know who I really was." And below that, a single name, signed in a flourish that made my blood run cold. Martha.